The Invasion of the Putties. Part 2.
Act 2.
Aiding those in need. The first team was headed to Africa. They hovered over an invisible dome, which had been cracked, and several putties had broken into. There was a pile of putties trying to claw their way through the protective dome. The Quinjet hovered over the hidden city of Wakanda. The team consisted of Gambit, Vixen, Dr. Dead, Arkham, Kit, the host of Ghost Rider, Dr. Fate, One-Up, Sabretooth, Isaac the Keyblade Wielder, and Ocklos. This is a big dome, Ocklos gasped.
It is a big city. Trust me.
Gambit replied.
Wait, you've been here before?
Vixen asked him.
Yes, I have. Before Union Day, of course.
Gambit explained.
We better get that vibranium.
One-Up barked.
Never liked those panther posers.
Dr. Dead moaned. Suddenly a hologram appeared in the centre of the hangar bay. Everyone gathered round, and the hologram was of the Black Panther. Hello, comrades. Thank you for turning up, Black Panther said.
Of course, Your Honor. We are here to lend a hand.
Gambit told the hologram. Ah, Gambit. You were friends with the late King T'Challa, Black Panther said.
I was, yes. He was a great man, hero, and king.
Gambit replied. He was. Now our problem is we need to lower the barrier so our civilians can leave to a hidden location for safety. But we will be left wide open for attack, Black Panther told them.
Open the barrier. We will give you a diversion.
Gambit told the king.
We can jump down and surprise them.
Vixen suggested. Sounds good, Ocklos nodded.
All this chit-chat is boring me. Wake me up when something fun happens.
Sabretooth growled as he slumped into his chair. Black Panther turned his attention from Sabretooth back to Gambit. Okay, I trust your leadership, Gambit. Wait for the barrier to open, then commit to your assault. Then I can get my people to safety. Once Wakanda is safe from their grip, only then will I give you your vibranium, Black Panther told him.
We understand,
Gambit replied. The hologram cut off, and the hangar doors opened. A blast of wind filled the room and chilled everybody. Okay, guys, wait for the barrier to drop, and then we drop, Ocklos said.
We must proceed with caution and make every move count,
Arkham told everyone.
Alright, big guy. Time to dance once again. Come on. Come on.
Kit barked. The barrier then deactivated and Wakanda came into view properly. The vast, beautiful city was suddenly ransacked with piles of putties that now poured into the city and filled the streets. That's our signal, Ocklos called out.
I will go first. Follow my lead.
One-Up barked, then he jumped out of the Quinjet and he fell. A set of stories falling and then hit the ground hard. He jumped up and punched a putty in the face, sending it flying back. Then a few Wakandan soldiers and the Dojo Milaje walked up to him, ready themselves for battle. Hello, and thank you for your help, one soldier said.
No problem. Hey, can I see your spear for a second? I just need to borrow it for a little bit.
One-Up asked. Sure. It is just a normal vibranium spear, though, the soldier replied.
Now that is what I'm hoping for.
One-Up chuckled. He touched the vibranium spear and his skin became vibranium. He sat there chuckling.
Now that is better.
One-Up grinned. Then he charged into a group of putties, colliding into them and started throwing his fists and throwing putties around. Vixen grabbed onto Arkham and pressed her amulet and the spirit of the Falcon wrapped around them. Then she took flight holding onto Arkham as she flew down to the battlefield, dropping him onto the floor.
Thank you, Vixen. Very kind of you.
Arkham told her. She nodded in response and then flew off and joined the battle, as did Arkham. On the Quinjet, Dr. Fate prepared his spell to catch Dr. Dead and Isaac. Are you sure about this? Isaac asked, concerned. My spell will protect you, Dr. Fate replied. Oh, please. You're no doctor, just a jazz dancer with a light show and magical effects, Dr. Dead chuckled. And what does that make you? Dr. Fate asked him.
Potatoes, mashed, fried, boiled, still potatoes, eh?
Dr. Dead grinned. Then Sabretooth jumped to his feet.
You can catch him, right?
Sabretooth asked Dr. Fate. Of course I can, Dr. Fate replied.
Good.
Sabretooth growled. Then he pushed Dr. Dead out of the Quinjet. He fell out with a high-pitched wail, leaving his voice, a mixture of screaming and laughing, echoed throughout the sky.
God, he's annoying.
Sabretooth grunted. Guess I'll see you guys on the other side, Isaac said awkwardly as he jumped out of the Quinjet. Dr. Fate floated after him and flew down. He flew past Isaac and Dr. Dead as he landed on the ground. With one hand, he wrote a symbol with his fingers and then made an explosion erupt from the ground, destroying several putties. With the other hand, he raised it up into the air and casted a spell which caught Isaac and Dr. Dead in mid-air, stopping them, and they floated gently to the ground. Isaac summoned his Keyblade and ran into the fight, and started slashing the putties down. Sabretooth landed on the ground on top of a putty, crushing it underneath him. He then jumped into another one and shredded the putty apart with his claws, roaring as he did. You pushed me! Dr. Dead screeched at him.
It was that, or rip your head off.
Sabretooth growled. Dr. Dead pulled out his revolver and knife. Then he pulled the trigger and a bullet ripped through the head of an attacking putty.
Stay away from me, kitty cat.
Dr. Dead said, pointing his knife at Sabretooth. Sabretooth just growled at the clown and slashed his claws into a putty, ripping it to pieces. Gambit landed and a massive explosion erupted from the ground as he hit the bow staff onto the floor. Putties flew up into the air. Both Sabretooth and Isaac jumped up and took the opportunity and started beating on the putties in midair. Isaac aimed his Keyblade into the sky. Thunderer! Isaac called out, and a blast of thunder struck the putties from the sky. Ocklos fell from the Quinjet, his eyes turned blue, and he became incorporeal and phased through the ground. He then popped back up, phasing back to normal, his eyes turned yellow, and he blurred around the city quickly. He started smacking into the putties and throwing them around. Kit jumped out of the Quinjet, and the Ghost Rider landed on the floor, machete in hand, its blade extremely hot. Then he started swinging the machete and slicing down the putties into pieces, the clay sizzling as his blade ripped through them. He then leaned forward and breathed a blast of fire. The amount of fire spewed through the battlefield, scorching several of the putties. One of the soldiers came riding in on a rhino. He hopped off and handed the reins to the Ghost Rider. I believe you can use this, he said to the Ghost Rider.
Thanks.
Ghost Rider said to him. He hopped onto the rhino, and the rhino set ablaze, becoming his ride. Its horn now scorching hot, the rhino charged forward and rampaged its way through the bigger groups of putties. Arkham started smacking around some putties with his cane, sending some vibrational waves off of it. Isaac made his Keyblade transform into the yo-yo form and started swinging them around. Ocklo shifted his eyes from yellow colour to a red colour, mixing his speed, then shifting into his super strength, allowing him to start some combos on the putties. Gambit spun his bow staff around, sending bursts of kinetic energy with each strike. Every couple of hits he'd throw a kinetically charged card at the putties as well. One-Up used his new vibranium skin to throw, crush, and obliterate groups of putties. Sabretooth bounced around, slashing and tearing apart putties with his teeth and claws. Ghost Rider swung his machete and used his new rhino ride to rip holes into putties. And he wielded his shotgun, blasting them to pieces. Dr. Fate cast spells, and two golden swords appeared. They floated around and swung by themselves, slicing up the putties apart. Vixen summoned the spirit of the bear, and used the strength to hit putties away. Then she summoned the spirit of the grasshopper. She launched herself into the air and crash-landed on several putties, crushing them under her feet. Dr. Dead jumped onto a putty and stabbed it with its knife several times before it fell to the floor. He then pulled out his necklace and used the time stone. As it started glowing, everything froze in place. Dr. Dead ran across the battlefield, placing sticky C4 explosives against the putties' bodies. Then he ran back to where he was, and then the time stone stopped glowing, and he tucked it away. Then he pressed the trigger button and several putties exploded on the spot, causing splash damage, destroying more putties. Suddenly, something big hit the ground. It caused a massive crater underneath it. It was a big creature, a brute of a monster. It was several putties merged together, almost like it was sewn together, mixed and mashed into 12-foot being with several arms and legs and heads sticking out of its body. It was truly a horrifying sight. Isaac ran at the brute putty, swinging his yo-yos, but the brute caught the yo-yos and pulled Isaac in closer, then swung its big fist and smacked Isaac in the face, knocking him flying back. Dr. Fate summoned 2 portals. 2 demonic hands climbed out of both portals and grabbed the brute, but the mangled form pulled free. Its arm tore off, leaving it armless, but the putties that Gambit and 1UP were fighting stopped fighting the heroes, ran towards the brute, climbed up it, and then started melding to it, forming itself a new arm.
Screw this!
Sabretooth growled, then he bolted and scaled at the brute's body, pouncing upward, and then he landed on its shoulders. He then used his claws to slash the monster's throat, but nothing happened. The brute grabbed Sabretooth and slammed him into the ground. Gambit threw several kinetically charged cards, which hit it dead on, but it wasn't effective. 1UP and Oculos ran into the brute, slamming into it, making it stumble back. Then Dr. Dead grabbed a javelin from one of the dead Wakandan soldiers and threw it at the brute's chest.
Strike!
Dr. Dead called out. Ghost Rider jumped onto the brute and stared into its face.
Burn for your sins.
He roared, but nothing happened. Ghost Rider stabbed the brute with his flaming machete, but the brute just staggered back and the Ghost Rider jumped off. Vixen then charged in with the spirit of the rhino and charged into the brute, knocking it off its feet. The brute stood up ever so slowly, the machete falling out of it. 1UP jumped up and smacked in the face. Gambit then came in with a hit of the bowstaff. Isaac returned the yo-yos back to their keyblade form and swung the keyblade, smacking the brute in the head. "This thing heals stupid fast," Isaac called out.
We have to keep them occupied.
Gambit yelled. Team 3 flew over Las Vegas. There was a helicarrier transport vehicle on one side of the street, ready to transport civilians up to the helicarriers. And on the other side was a bunch of SWAT soldiers shooting down a massive crowd of putties. With them was a small group of civilians. Team 3 consisted of Thunderstruck, the Red Lantern, the Orange Lantern, the Iron Butler, Bane, Scarecrow, Dr. Fury, Black Canary, Venom, Moon Knight, and Soma Noir.
Let's kick some ass.
Bane chuckled.
Let's find out what these things are scared of.
Scarecrow hissed. Black Canary leaned in to Thunderstruck and the Iron Butler.
We have to keep an eye on them. Their word means nothing.
Black Canary told them.
Agreed. Sometimes I wonder if Amanda Waller had a point.
The Iron Butler replied. The hangar door opened and the heroes and villains all jumped out and landed by the SWAT team. The Quinjet flew off, leaving the team by themselves. Bane pressed his gauntlet and his tubes filled with the venom serum. His muscles started popping with green veins. Then Bane ran into the huge crowd of putties and tackled some to the ground. Scarecrow planted one of his canisters on the floor and turned the valve. The canister started hissing, and then Scarecrow pulled out a small knife and stabbed the canister. It flew across the street like a bottle rocket, burying itself into the crowd of putties before it exploded. The green gas filled the area. The putties then started acting all strange and fighting each other.
Perfect.
Scarecrow chuckled. Soma Noir activated his dual disc. The reality stone was triggered and it started to glow. Soma's arm had red veins running up it. He pulled 5 cards out of his deck, looked at them, and placed one of the cards on his dual disc.
I play Elemental Hero Clayman in defense mode and Destiny Hero Diamond Dude in attack mode.
Soma called out. Soma's cards burst to life. Elemental Hero Clayman knelt down in front of the SWAT team, defending them and pushing back some of the putties. The SWAT team started using Clayman as cover. Destiny Hero Diamond Dude used his diamonds to rip through the putties. Moon Knight jumped over into the group and threw one of his crescent blades. It hit one of the putties in the chest. Moon Knight jumped up and kicked one of the putties in the head before he blocked an incoming attack. Then he kneed one in the face before sliding across the floor, tripping it over. Thunderstruck punched one of the putties, then suddenly the Red Lantern construct flew overhead in the shape of an axe, slicing a putty clean in half. Thunderstruck turned to see the Red Lantern floating beside him.
Thanks, I guess.
Thunderstruck muttered.
Where is he?
Red Lantern barked.
Already safe? On one of the helicarriers? You don't think I didn't do what I needed to make sure our son was safe?
Thunderstruck hissed at her.
I know, I'm sorry. I would have called, but...
The Red Lantern started as she showed off her Red Lantern ring. The Red Lantern held out her ring and a turret was formed and it opened fire on the group of putties, mowing them down. The Orange Lantern landed next to them and aimed his ring, and a massive alien worm construct with several rows of teeth exploded from the ground, throwing several putties in the air and eating them.
You okay?
The Orange Lantern asked the Red Lantern.
Stop talking to me!
The Red Lantern barked before she dived into the group whilst making a drill construct, which ripped through the putties. Venom threw his symbiote tendrils out and impaled several of the putties at once, and swung the putties around, smashing them into other putties. Venom then grabbed one and bit his head off.
You gotta stop doing that.
Venom choked. Black Canary rolled in and smacked the putty with several hits of her bow staff. Then she screamed and several putties dropped to the floor, holding their ears, and then exploded into lumps of clay. Venom also dropped to one knee as the symbiote shimmered in pain.
Stop it, it hurts.
Venom barked.
Whoops. My bad.
Black Canary said sarcastically. Dr. Fury held out her hand whilst muttering a spell, and a massive meteorite came falling from the sky, and it shattered into several pieces and crashed down on the group of putties. Iron Butler started guiding the civilians across the road to the transport. Iron Butler then put his shoulder turret into automatic mode so it can shred the hot lead into putties. As they came up close, the civilians all climbed aboard, and the Iron Butler started aiming his wrist-mounted guns and started shooting down more putties.
The civilians are safe. Quinjet incoming. 10 minutes. Let us sort these things out and head to the next location.
The Iron Butler ordered. Soma's Diamond Dude was overrun by putties, and he exploded into light. Soma felt a struck of pain in his arm as the life points went down. He placed another card in attack mode.
I hope you like playing with bubbles, because now I play Elemental Hero Bubble Man.
Soma called out. Bubble Man appeared and started attacking the putties.
Time to get serious.
Soma yelled as he drew another card and analysed it.
Time I play Polymerization and fuse both Elemental Hero Bubble Man and Elemental Hero Clayman together to form the Elemental Hero Mudball Man.
Soma grinned. Then the two heroes started glowing and fused into one. After a burst of light, Elemental Hero Mudball Man stood before the putties. The fusion monster rammed into the putties, squashing them under his massive body. Suddenly, something blurred past and smacked Black Canary, knocking her off her feet. Something moved with intense speed, hitting the Iron Butler as well, making him stagger back. Something else blurred and hit Thunderstruck, and hit him in the chest, then again and again and again, hitting his back, the back of his legs, and his shoulders. He grunted in pain, as his skin started to glow as the kinetic energy built up in his body. Then Thunderstruck noticed another something moving at intense speed, moving towards him. He slammed his fist on the ground and sent the kinetic energy through the ground, making whatever it was trip over. It crashed on the floor, and its two friends sped up to it and aided it back to its feet. They were putties, but these were scrawny, lankier, ill-looking putties, like they hadn't eaten in ages, and they were vibrating at intense speeds.
They move fast.
Thunderstruck grunted. The Red and Orange Lantern both blasted the speedster putties, but they moved out of the way. Iron Butler took to the sky and started raining bullets and energy blasts at the extremely fast putties, but they dodged the attacks. Dr. Fury aimed her hands out and a magical spell slowed them down. The Orange Lantern and Red Lantern blasted the putties, and Moon Knight jumped in with a kick to the chest as Venom grabbed one and slammed it into the ground. Bane then picked it up from Venom by the ankle and slammed it to the ground again and picked it up, raised it over his head, and then grabbed it by the waist and the neck and brought it down with all his strength, raising his knee up and smacking the putty over his knee. Suddenly, the Speeds of Putties trio broke out of the slow speeding spell and became blurs once again, unfazed. Team 2 flew over the ocean, its Quinjet hovering over the water, where a big circle was placed, it rimming with energy.
Alright guys, this is a magical ring. Link to Atlantis. Jump through and you're there. Very simple.
Nightwing explained. Team 2 consisted of Nightwing, Robin, the new Captain Cold, Arsenal, Hawkeye, Doctor Strange, Pyro, Julian Long, Spider-Man, and Benevolent Cardio.
Everyone, keep close and don't stare at the Atlanteans. Some of them can be a little aquatic looking.
Arsenal told the team. Got it, Hawkeye nodded. Yo, dude, is this wise? Robin asked Nightwing.
I promise, it will be okay. Just need to be careful. The king has kept his distance from us since Union Day, but maybe this will bring us all closer together.
Nightwing told his apprentice. Yeah, okay. Robin nodded hesitantly. Then the hangar door opened, and one after the other they all jumped into the circle, which spat them out into a room of gold and white and blue. The team all looked around, and above them was a massive glass ceiling, with the ocean above them, fish life swimming and swarming around them. Suddenly, screams could be heard from across the corridor. The team all ran down the corridor and burst into a gigantic hall, where putties had started breaking the glass with all their might and started breaking into the room. Massive amount of water started spilling into the room. Suddenly, Calder came into the room with some of his Atlantean guards. A former Aqualad was now the king of Atlantis. Hello, Nightwing. Thank you for your aid. We're in the middle of boarding civilians into transport vehicles to get them to safety. Help us with these clay things. I'll grant you full access to whatever you need from Atlantis, the king told him.
Hey, Kilder, and yeah, we got your back, man. Always.
Nightwing replied. Then the team started fighting off the putties. Calder led them outside and where the city of Atlantis was being attacked. Putties were on the glass dome, still hitting it, where their clay dome fists hitting the dome hard, making it cracked in places where water now started filling up the place. Putties had already broken in some areas and started climbing through.
Captain Cold, Spider-Man, Strange, handle the water. We have human civilians down here, and we can't rely on the idea that they have water-breathing gear. The rest of you, handle those putties.
Nightwing barked. Spider-Man shot up a web and pulled himself up into the air. He shot a web and hit a putty and pulled him closer to it and landed on the higher bridge and punched the putty into the air. He jumped up, smacked the putty a few times around before kicking it away. Doctor Strange floated up into the air and with his magic he froze the forever flowing water that was spilling in place. Then with a rotation of his hand, the water reverted out of the dome and stayed in place. Spider-Man jumped up and shot several web shots, sealing up the cracks. Captain Cold ran up a gold arch monument, making him in line with the waterfall. He aimed his cold gun and shot a blast, which hit the water, freezing it into solid ice. Then Captain Cold turned around to see two putties climbing up to him. He aimed his gun and made an ice slide. He slid down it and aimed his gun, blasting the two now confused putties, freezing them solid. They fell and hit the floor, shattering into pieces. Spider-Man shot a web and pulled a putty up into the air and smacked his foot across its face. Doctor Strange aimed his hand out, and the crimson bands of Cytoruk burst forth and grabbed some of the putties, pulling them apart. Arsenal and Hawkeye ran through the city as they aimed their bows and shot at the surrounding putties. Arsenal aimed an arrow and fired it. It hit one of the putties with a surge of electricity bolting through it. The putty touched another putty and it shot it, and then suddenly a current of electricity started through the whole group of putties, electrocuting them all. Hawkeye aimed his arrow and shot it, and hit the putty in the head. It started to glow, then the putty exploded with a splash attack, hurting the other putties.
Explosive nanites. Clever thinking.
Arsenal chimed. Yeah, I know. Hawkeye chuckled. Suddenly they saw aquatic people with fins, flippers and gills cowering under the attack of the putties. Arsenal aimed his bow and shot an arrow in one of its heads, and it dropped dead. Hawkeye ran up to them. Go on, get going, come on, move! Hawkeye demanded. The older creature pulled the younger ones to their feet and ran off. Hawkeye aimed his arrow up and shot it up into the air, and it exploded into red light.
Lance, I gotta give it to you. Using flares as a communication system is pretty smart.
Arsenal told him. Thanks, Hawkeye grinned.
Kate, I mean, your mother would be very proud of you.
Arsenal said with a small smile. Hawkeye did not reply, just nodded, then they both started shooting arrows at more putties. Nightwing and Robin started fighting a group of putties that had managed to climb up to the palace. Nightwing smacked a few with his extrema stick, snapping them with each strike. He then ran up to one putty, jumped up and slammed into it, and made it slam into the ground. Then Robin shot his grapple hook and pulled the putty closer as it staggered forward. Robin backflipped, knocking the putty into the air. He then threw several explosive birdarangs into several more putties, making them explode. Cardio increased his heart rate and made his muscle mass increase, making him stronger. He smacked one putty flying back. Then he slowed his heart rate down. His heart rate then increased once again. This time increased his strength of his skin, making it so nothing could penetrate his skin whatsoever. He ran into the group of putties that was terrorizing an elderly human, and he slammed into the putty and crushed it. He then kicked one in the head as he landed. He pulled out his chainsicle and slashed his way out of the group of putties, making sure he led the elderly person out of harm's way. Julian Long jumped up high. Dragon up! Julian barked, and suddenly flames wrapped around him, transforming him into the American dragon. Who knew Atlantis was a real place? He muttered to himself. Then he flew down and breathed a blast of fire, scorching the group of putties. Pyro lit his flamethrower and aimed them. He blasted a few putties. Then he manipulated the fire so it flew into another group of them as well. He then increased the intensity of the flame so that the putties tried to walk through it, instantly turned into a pile of crisp clay, and would surely feel the heat. King Calder ran up to Nightwing. We've evacuated most of the city, but they're still wanting to get in, Calder told him.
Let's have a look,
Nightwing muttered. Calder and Nightwing looked out of one of the huge windows and saw some of the putties wearing black armor. They were dragging a huge slingshot-like catapult mechanical machine. One of them plating putties climbed in to the catapult. The other putty pressed the button and it shot the loaded putty at the main entrance door to Atlantis. The putty hit the door and exploded. The door shocked from the attack.
Are they built with explosives? They are turning themselves into ammunition.
Nightwing growled. Another putty was placed in the catapult and was fired at the door again. The door again once rattled against the impact. We have to stop them, King Calder barked. Several soldiers used their shields and weapons to push the door, securing it as a barricade. Another putty was shot and it hit the door and exploded on impact. The door shut heavily, which made the soldiers stagger backwards. Spider-Man landed next to Nightwing, clinging onto the balcony with his sticky fingers. Yo, boss, you got a plan? Spider-Man said to Nightwing.
Working on it!
Nightwing grunted. Mark teleported into Wakanda.
Sorry I'm late, guys.
Mark said, then he noticed the brute putty fighting Sabretooth, Isaac, and One-Up.
Begging my pardon, but if you wouldn't mind putting on your tight spandex outfit and helping us out, please, that would be great.
Gambit sneered at Mark.
With pleasure.
Mark nodded.
It's morphin' time!
Mark called out. Mark held out his Cornish power morpher, and it popped open.
Kono bis ficken!
Mark called out. Then the morpher dematerialized, leaving the coin floating there. Mark then morphed into his ranger suit. His helmet formed over his head. Then the coin started spinning and it flew at Mark, hitting Mark in the chest. The coin shattered, and Mark's Cornish chest shield formed around him. Mark had morphed into the Red Cornish Ranger. The Red Cornish Ranger ran past the team of heroes and villains.
Our heroes in red pajamas here to save the day. Oh, goody!
Dr. Dead growled. The red Cornish Ranger ran up to the brute, summoned his power axe, and sliced the monster in the stomach. Then Gambit threw several cards at the brute and hit it dead on. They exploded, making it stagger backwards. One-Up ran up to the beast and uppercut it in the face. As Oclo sped up to the monster using his speed and slammed into its body, he pulled out his gun and pulled the trigger several times. Then the red Cornish Ranger ran up to Sabretooth, who grabbed the Red Ranger and threw him up into the air. The Red Ranger, now in midair, aimed his power axe right down as he fell down towards the brute. As he landed on the monster, he swung his power axe as hard as he could, ramming the blade into the monster's face. The brute roared out in pain as it staggered forward and fell to its knees. Dr. Dead ran up to it and pulled the trigger on his revolver as he put it point blank to the monster's face, and the brute dropped to the floor. It started falling apart into pieces of putty parts, which then dissolved slowly. The red Cornish Ranger stood there, and Gambit placed his hand on his shoulder.
Thank you,
Gambit said to him.
You're welcome. If you don't mind, I must help the other teams.
The red Cornish Ranger told him. Go, we got this, Oclos told him.
We will contact you when Wakanda is safe. You have my word.
One-Up said.
Or we die first.
Sabretooth growled. The red Cornish Ranger hit his teleportation device, and he teleported away.
I like the way your brain ticks,
Dr. Dead said to Sabretooth, who just growled at him in response. The red Cornish Ranger teleported into Atlantis. He scanned his surroundings.
Whoa. Both these secret cities are beautiful.
The Red Ranger muttered to himself. Then he saw the issue at hand. He then clocked Nightwing, and a man he did not recognize. He ran up to both of them.
Kelder, this is Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger, and our ally in this invasion.
Nightwing introduced them.
Pleasure to meet you, Your Honor.
The red Cornish Ranger said with a bow. Please. Pleasure's mine, Ranger. And Calder is fine, King Calder told him.
Noted. Now, what have we here?
The Ranger asked them. They have long-range weapon, turning themselves into explosive ammunition. King Calder pointed. The red Cornish Ranger could see through the glass that in the ocean several of them were aiming themselves flying through towards the big door and hitting it with explosive putties.
I see. And I have a plan.
The Red Ranger told the king. Then he jumped off the balcony and landed next to the squad, who was fending off the putty still.
Open the door.
The red Cornish Ranger told the soldiers. Calder and Nightwing landed next to them. We can barricade the streets. Activate the funnel system, which will drain the water out quickly. Make sure it's only this region. We'll be safe, Calder told everyone. Then everyone agreed. So Calder pressed his holographic wristband, and suddenly a holographic wall appeared between the street that led into the city and the main entrance, which kept shaking as the explosive putties kept on hitting it. All right, open the door, Calder barked. The door slowly opened. All the team applied breathing masks and was filled with water rather quickly. The water hit the holographic wall, and Calder pressed some more buttons on his wristband, and 2 sections of the surrounding dome wall opened up and sucked the water up and gave back to the ocean. As the water filled the area, the putties in the catapult also got dragged in with the momentum and landed inside the little barricaded area that the king had made. The doors were then closed, and the remaining water was sucked out of the dome, leaving everyone safe but wet. The few remaining putties got up and started throwing fists. The red Cornish Ranger summoned his power lance, swung it up, slicing some of the putties. Nightwing and Robin started fighting as well. Ursula and Hawkeye aimed their arrows and fired at some of the putties. Spider-Man replaced his web cartridges as his old ones were now soaked, and then he started weaping up some of the putties as well before kicking them and punching them. The red Cornish Ranger jumped up, and Doctor Strange made a platform of energy so the red Cornish Ranger could land on it. Then he jumped up and threw the power lance at the catapult. It flew across the battlefield, but the putty jumped in the way and it got hit in the chest as it crashed to the floor. The Red Cornish Ranger retrieved his power lance. Spider-Man landed on the wall of the building next to him. Yo, throw it up into the air. I've got an idea, Spider-Man called out. The Red Cornish Ranger kicked the putty away and then nodded at Spider-Man in understanding. He then aimed up high and threw the power lance up into the air like a javelin. Doctor Strange aimed his hand and muttered a spell, and all the putties became really slow because he made them heavy. Then Robin shot his grapple hook and pulled himself into the air. He shot his grapple hook at the power lance and pressed his gauntlet, and a surge of electricity ran through the wire and charged the power lance up with electricity. He then spun around and threw the lance higher up into the air. Ali! Robin called out. Spider-Man then jumped up high, shot a web, and caught the power lance. Spider-Man then spun around in midair, spinning the lance up and around, and then he let go, throwing the power lance directly at the catapult. The power lance, now charged, filled with electricity, made contact, and the catapult exploded. Spider-Man landed next to Robin, and they both high-fived. Oop! Spider-Man cheered.
Glad that worked. I will return, but I gotta help the other teams.
The Red Cornish Ranger told them.
Thank you. That was helpful. We should be able to secure Atlantis soon.
Nightwing told him. The Red Cornish Ranger nodded, hit his teleportation device, and teleported away. In Las Vegas, the three incredibly fast putties kept running around and striking the team members, causing them a dismay in the battle. Suddenly, the Red Cornish Ranger teleported in and saw the team being attacked by the three speeder putties.
They seem to have learned a few things we didn't know. The time difference. That's the scary part.
The Red Cornish Ranger told himself. He then turned to Dr. Fury.
Can you slow them down?
The Ranger asked the Sorcerer. I can, yes, Dr. Fury confirmed. He then summoned the Power Sword and handed it to Moon Knight. He took the sword and felt the weight of it. Then he summoned Saba and the Dragon Dagger. He handed the Dragon Dagger to Black Canary, and he gripped onto Saba tightly. Then Dr. Fury cast her spell, and the three speedsters slowed down. Then the Red Lantern made several restraining constructs, which secured them around the ankles and held onto them. Her arm was shaking from the resistance. The Moon Knight then ran up to one of the secured putties with the power sword in hand and started dealing out several attacks. The Black Canary also ran up to one and slashed one of them with the Dragon Dagger. The Red Cornish Ranger ran up to the last one, and with a powerful strike he cut it down with Saba, and the fast putties all exploded. The Red Lantern dropped to one knee as her constructs diminished as she held onto it for a bit too long.
You okay?
The Orange Lantern asked as he held out his hand, trying to help her up, but she pushed him away.
Get off me!
The Red Lantern barked.
Look, I'm just trying to help.
The Orange Lantern snapped back.
Well, don't.
She growled. Moon Knight and Black Canary returned their weapons to the Red Cornish Ranger. That was something else, Moon Knight muttered.
It was so light, but so strong.
Black Canary told him.
They are incredible.
The Red Cornish Ranger confirmed as the weapons disappeared. Then suddenly the ground started shaking. They all looked past the city outskirts. Far off in the distance, they could see a massive wave of grey mess moving towards them. The Iron Butler flew high up into the sky and scanned the area.
There is thousands of them. It's an army,
he said in awe.
How are we gonna handle that many?
Soma asked.
We need a plan of attack,
Venom growled. And you have one, a voice said. Everyone turned around to see Damian Wayne perched on a street sign. He flipped off it and walked up to everyone. The Iron Butler landed, his headpiece removed and opened up, revealing his teary eyes.
Hello, son,
he said. Hello, old man. Glad to see you're doing well, Damian told him.
Same to you,
Alfred said sadly. Damian then walked up to Dr. Fury and handed her a piece of paper. These are some coordinates. Open the portals, yeah? I need you to do this so we can continue our fighting and have a fighting chance here, he told her. Hang on a moment. Dr. Fury told him. She took the piece of paper and read it. Then she started floating up. She crossed her legs and started meditating, and then several portals opened and the League of Assassins came charging out and headed straight out of the city towards the massive wave of putties heading towards them. "Let us rid the world of these things," Damian Wade yelled as he ran with his league with his sword drawn. The rest of the team ran towards the crowd and joined the fight.
"Thank you, Ranger,"
the Iron Butler said to the Red Cornish Ranger as his headpiece came back down, clicked into place as he took off in flight.
"Look who came in handy after all."
Thunderstruck grinned at him as he joined the others. The Red Cornish Ranger was about to teleport away when a SWAT truck came towards him and halted. Then several SWAT soldiers climbed out with a couple of suited men and a man in a lab coat. The lab-coated gentleman approached the Red Cornish Ranger. You're Mark, right?" the scientist asked.
"The one and only,"
the Red Cornish Ranger replied. "Good. Please confirm. You've been there, right? To their world?" the man asked, pointing towards the far-off distant army advancing towards them.
"I did come from their universe, but how did you know that?"
the Red Cornish Ranger asked him, now confused and slightly concerned. My name is Angel Fairweather. I came from that universe. I watched Putty Prime being made, and I need your help," the scientist told him. The Red Cornish Ranger demorphed, leaving Mark stood there, staring at the scientist, in awe and confusion.
Jessica, Ember, and Jordan, the Red Lantern, was voiced by Jordan. Jack, the Orange Lantern, was voiced by Crimson. Soma Noir was voiced by Ghost Galaxy Cosplay. Bane was voiced by Draco de Valentine. Scarecrow was played by Franken Sauce. Pyro was played by Cosplay Sun 637. Arson was played by A-Crown. Black Canary was played by Decent Hugs. Ghost Rider and its host Kit was played by Oni Guy. Vixen was voiced by Naomi Edwards, Ty's stepmother. Felicia Hart was voiced by Kat Osborne. Cardio and Venom were voiced by Ethan. One Up and 1/3 of Dr. Dead's voices was played by the J Dragon Hart. Arkham was voiced by DJP voiceover. Thunderstruck was voiced by Austin, aka XX Dark Angel 69. Nightwing and Gambit were voiced by Cosplay Dude 637. Sabretooth, Alfred, 1/3 of Dr. Dead's voices. Also, the Red Cornish Ranger was voiced by Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger himself. Everyone else was voiced by the writer and storyteller, your host, Ty Tiger.